Welcome to another edition of the Offensive Interference Podcast. I am Coach Gene Clemons. I'm joining you today live on YouTube. It's great to be here. I know out there it's a crazy time right now with everything going on. I haven't really chimed in too much on where I stand at because I really believe that a lot of times this stuff is just going to take care of itself. I am Coach Gene Clemons. I believe a lot of times this stuff is going to take care of itself. And so it doesn't necessarily require a lot of talk. I will say this, though, for everybody out there that's clamoring for independence, for everybody that's out there saying we have to play, help yourselves out. If you want to play, you've got to suit up. Put your mask on. Make sure that you're not part of the reason that it's spreading, or that anyone can say that you're a part of the reason why it's spreading. You don't lose anything by wearing a mask in public. There's nothing that comes negative by wearing a mask in public. Yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, it's hot outside. But if at the end of the day you get football back, isn't that what most of us want anyway? So if you want to have football, you've got to suit up. You've got to do your part. Put your mask on. Now, for me, I'm going to say this. I'm really excited because I don't always deviate off of the field. I like to really stay focused on football in ways that help coaches and players get better. I like to analyze and break down, but I have many different likes and many things I'm interested in. And one of them that I love movies. I am a movie buff. I mean, I would be a movie critic in a minute if I could. I really, really enjoy movies, and I have seen every movie under the sun. Probably not all the movies, but I've seen enough to feel as if that I am an aficionado when it comes to movies. So what I wanted to do, I was sitting back and thinking about like top fives, and I know people have their top fives, and I don't usually get into lists, but I was interested because I have a top 5 football movies, and I'm going to just pop on my little presentation and give you an understanding of what I believe makes a top 5 football movie. It may not be your top 5, but at the end of the day, you can always feel free to chime in with what you believe should be your top 5. So for me, I had to look at the criteria for my top 5. So what were the things I was going to discuss? So my top 5 football movies. Number 1, it has to be a great story. If it's not a great story, it's not going to hold me. It has to be great football. Corny football in a movie immediately turns you off to everything else going on, especially for us as coaches, because we're looking at the actual football to see how transferable it is. Like, oh, is that really a play? Could that really happen? So the better the story, the better the football is going to work for us. And number 3 for me is a realistic situation. Is this far-fetched? Is this outlandish? Or is this something that could really happen in real life and play out the way that it plays out in the movie? So I look at, first off, a few of the movies that I say make my honorable mention, and different reasons, obviously. North Dallas 40 was for a long time the preeminent movie that looked at the National Football League and what went on in professional football. Nick Nolte, Matt Davis did a great job. They talked a lot about drugs and paraphernalia and pain pills and alcohol and everything that we now know was a major part of football, especially back in those times. But it's kind of hokey. Storyline doesn't exactly all kind of rub together. It's a little disjointed. I don't like the ending. I think that overall it's a good movie for its time, but as things got better with storytelling and with production, it was just not going to hold up over time. Another one of my honorable mentions, if you will, is Varsity Blues, which is, in my opinion, one of the preeminent fictional teen football movies. The reason that is honorable mention, one of the reasons is the football. While it's exciting and it's shot well, it's not really realistic. Billy Bob out lead blocking on pulling. He can barely run. He's knocking over people left, right, and then the guy's just sitting behind him waiting. It's not really as realistic as I would like for the football. And the story's a little far-fetched. Like, hey, we decided we were going to go out there without the coach. The coach just quit at halftime. Like, I don't know. I don't see a guy after 22 district championships just deciding that he's no longer going to be involved and walk out because nobody followed him. I don't think that that's going to be the way that something like that plays out. The last one for me, I just find it to be really entertaining. It's The Replacements. It's not real, although it has some real scenarios, because what if you had replacement players come in for the pros? You're not going to find people that are out there just waiting for their number to be called, not doing anything else. Many people have to make a living. So a lot of those football players have to come from somewhere. Now, obviously, they play it up to the umpteenth level, but you can definitely see some realism in the way in which things went down. Now, it's a comedy, so it takes everything over the top, but it is a very enjoyable football movie. So now, for my top 5 football movies of all time. Number 5, Any Given Sunday. Now, I could have had Any Given Sunday a lot higher, to be honest with you. For me, I believe that Any Given Sunday is the new preeminent movie that tackles life in professional football. There is nothing, and I mean nothing, that's in Any Given Sunday that we haven't seen someone talk about in real football. I think it's because when the movie was made, there were people being consulted on the movie who were involved in real football. The reason that it drops down to number 5 for me, the actual football sequences, they're a little too they're a little too artsy. Some are kind of unbelievable. Some of the camera angles they try to use to really get inside and see what's going on makes it hard to really believe that that's how it would have played out. But top 5 pick, I really like the performance of Jamie Foxx. Any Given Sunday gives us Steamin' Willie Beamen, and Steamin' Willie Beamen drops real legitimate knowledge in this movie, especially in his conversations when he's talking to Al Pacino's character, Tony D'Amato. He's telling them about a lot of things that go on with a lot of black players in the NFL, as we found out, feel. And so even though this movie isn't about the NFL, because obviously they probably couldn't clear all of this with the NFL, you get an idea that this is what they're talking about and how professional football is actually looked at. A coach that many might think is over the hill, who still got some tricks under his sleeve, a quarterback that people are saying he's on his last leg, but he still feels like he's got one more shot, or he's dealing with his mortality, a young up-and-coming, exciting quarterback who's not really looked at because he's not your conventional quarterback, a player who's all about the money, a guy who's all about the flash, somebody is trying to make things happen for their kids. You have everything in this movie from a professional aspect that makes me believe that this is a top 5 movie. So Any Given Sunday, that comes in at number 5. At number 4, All the Right Moves. Now, Many of you may not have seen All the Right Moves, but it's about a young man. I believe it's a Pittsburgh or Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania town, small Pennsylvania town. He is looking to get a scholarship because he's trying to break free of a small town and all of the things that happens with that. He makes some boneheaded decisions. He has a run-in with the coach that ultimately begins to kind of put a negative light out there on him. So he doesn't get any scholarship offers. And then ultimately at the end, I think that the head coach feels bad. The head coach gets a college job and then gives a young man a scholarship. It's a really interesting look at a dynamic from the standpoint that there's a young man who sees football as his only way out of a situation. And that is indicative of a lot of young men who are playing football today. They believe that football is the only way that they can get out of the situations that they're in. And so it's something that really resonates with me. And I know that it would resonate with a lot of people if they've seen it. This is young Tom Cruise. This is Craig T. Nelson, maybe not at his height because Coach was his height, but a Craig T. Nelson that was a really established actor, and a Leah Thompson that was young and coming on. There's a couple scenes in there that you might want to check out. I'm just saying that All the Right Moves has a very realistic feel to it. The football reminds me of Northeast type of football, really gritty. Everybody's kind of similarly talented, and it seems to be the hard workers that really are able to achieve beyond that. So my number 4 movie, All the Right Moves. At number 3, and for a long time, this was my number 1 movie, The Program. There was not another college football movie that accurately depicted all of the different layers that comes with being in college and all of the different pressures that come with being in college. The idea of the highly touted recruit versus the incumbent person who's been waiting their turn or who they've been trying to out-recruit for all of these years, and the clash that comes with that. The idea of using things to lure recruits in, and then once they get there, they realize that that's not the case. The pressure when you're the man on the team to perform because of how it will affect your program, and then the pressure of a coach who needs to win, because if he doesn't win, there's a chance that he might lose his job and his way of life. Steroid use. They tackle sexual abuse. They tackle sweeping things under the rug. They tackle division or instability between coach and player, between player and player. They tackle what happens when you have that debilitating injury that ends your career, and that career could have been one that made millions of dollars in the NFL. The Alvin Mack story in here is a cautionary tale to every really, really, truly great football player out there who believes that they don't have to do anything else in their life except be good at football. Because once it was over for Alvin Mack as a football player, he had nothing left. He couldn't read. He didn't have any grades to fall back on. What is that man to do now? It's a very inspirational story. It's a very awesome story, and one that I believe is right up there with the top stories. And the football's not bad either. It's some really good football. Number 2, Remember the Titans. Now, for a lot of people, Remember the Titans is their number 1. It's my number 2. Denzel Washington could make a movie number 1 all by himself. He's fantastic in this movie. I believe that all of the characters in there were good. The idea of desegregation and integrating sports and letting sports be the thing that leads the way in unity between various communities and various peoples. I believe in all of that. Remember the Titans was a great story. I love the way that it went down, that the type of pressure that was on everybody in the story. But if we're being honest, some of the football in Remember the Titans, not that great. I remember specifically a play where the ball gets, the guy gets outside, and I think it's Wood Harris, who's playing defensive end, goes and he's running them down, and he looks so hokey behind him, running them down, and it doesn't look real at all. And there's many of those plays. Sunshine, the quarterback, going up, leading, blocking at the end. He takes out one guy. He takes out a second guy. He takes out a third guy, and I'm just like, Sunshine's a bad mofo. He's a bad white boy, but ain't nobody that bad where they're knocking out 3 people in lieu to a touchdown on the last play of the game. Just some things that just made it a little bit more unrealistic for me, harder for me to put it at number 1, especially because, and I will say this, Remember the Titans also gets the nod up here because it's based on some true events. But number 1, undoubtedly, is the original Friday Night Lights, not the show. Stop it. Maybe another day we'll talk about football shows. But the number 1 Friday Night Lights, you want to win, put Booby in. I mean, I remember when this movie came out, and I was so excited to go see this movie. I was so excited to go check it out because I wanted to see like how good it was going to be. Like how good were they going to make it? The trailers for it were really, really good. You had everything in here. This is high school football in a nutshell. Insert crazy about football town in anywhere in America, not just in Texas. There's one of these in anywhere in America. And the idea that they were able to bring it all together and capture so many different storylines at one time, that it made it so good because it made you feel like you were on that team, or that you knew somebody who was a player like one of the players on the team. Like I felt like I could know a Booby Miles. I felt like I could know a Twitchell. I felt like I knew these guys, Comer. So you had the guy who was the star in Booby Miles, and then everything's going well, and Booby Miles gets hurt, and now life ends because they had put everything into a game plan around one player. Now the team has to rally. Now the coach has to show that he is actually able to coach. He's not just a Jimmy's and Joe's coach. He's got to be an X's and O's coach now. He's got to motivate. He's got to out-scheme people. And they go on a run. They band together. They go on a run that seems improbable because you're like, oh, that would never happen in real life. Except it's a true story. Except this really happened. And they go on and they run up and they get this close. They get this close to winning that state title. This close. And when they're stopped, when they don't get that touchdown at the end, every emotion in me just falls out. Especially because the first thing you see is the cheerleaders start crying. So when, like, everybody knows in football, like the cheerleaders are invested in the game kind of, but they're really trying to make sure they're getting their stuff ready together. When the cheerleaders are so emotionally invested that as soon as that ball hit and the clock went dead, that cheerleader started crying, and I started crying right along with her. And then when Billingsley's dad comes out and puts the ring on his finger, his dad has been so hard on him, and you just feel the emotion, like the pride inside of everybody. And the coach just looks up at his wife, throws her the sign, which reminds me of, all your coaches out there, that you probably, after every game, win or lose, you locate the one that you love in the stands to let her know, I'm okay. I'm coming home. We'll get back to the drawing board. I see you. I appreciate you. I love you. Everything within this movie had me engulfed the entire time. To me, it's number one. Nothing's come close to it. Nothing's probably going to come close to it, because in order to be better than this, you have to be a real story. And there were so many factors that went into what happened in this that it's probably going to be hard for a true story to be this good again. Now, maybe they're out there, and I don't know if they are or they aren't. And that's probably brings me to my next thing, which is, why haven't we seen more football movies? There are so many football stories out there. It seems to me that it's crazy that we haven't seen more football movies. I personally can't get enough of them. I love them. I love all sports movies because you can learn all types of life lessons through any one of these sports movies, and there's so many more out there. So I just wanted to be able to do something a little lighter, not be so heavy on the topics. I know that the world is crazy out there. I wanted to share with you, and I've really enjoyed talking about this. You know what? We might have to make this a mid-Monday every month. Yeah, we're going to call it the Triple M. So from now on, every mid-Monday of the month, I'm going to have a top 5 of something. I just came up with that right here. You can hold me to it. So if you haven't done so already, like the video, subscribe to the channel. We're close to 1,000. I'd love to get to 1,000 before we hit August. So subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment. If your top 5 is different than my top 5, what would your top 5 be? Where did I come up? If you just don't agree with my top 5, where did I fall off at? Leave a comment in there. Make sure that you patronize our sponsors, Say Less Sports Tees. You can find them at saylessports.com. You can see them on Instagram, Facebook, Say Less Sports Tees. Make sure that you support the people that support us. If you have a team and you're looking to outfit your team for their travel gear, for their pregame gear, for spirit wear, if you're looking to do a fundraiser, having Say Less Sport Tees in your back pocket is the way to go. They're going to be able to get you the best prices and the fastest turnover. So once again, thank you for joining me for the Offensive Interference Podcast. I've been Coach Gene Clemons. Y'all take it easy.